Welcome to ACP, the Amazon Connect podcast. This is the show that focuses on Amazon Connect and related technologies. I'm your host, Tom Morgan, introducing episode 3, and I'm joined as usual by my co-host, AWS Solution Architect and Contact Center Consultant, Alex Baker. We're also joined today by Bentley Payton, Platform Engineer at Cloud Interact. Find out more about Cloud Interact by visiting us at cloudinteract.io. Hello everyone, and hello Alex and Bentley. We're all in different places today, so this is going to be a fun technical challenge because I'm in some sort of isolation because I don't feel very well. So Alex has stayed at home, and Bentley, you're in Manchester?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Perfect. Excellent, right, cool. And so we've got loads of stuff to talk about today. We're going to deep dive a little bit into some of the new exciting audio video stuff that's in the web chat widget, because I know, Bentley, you've been playing with that quite a lot, so that's going to be really good to talk through. Before we get into that, though, we like to sort of cover off any news items or anything that's been happening since our last episode. And I know, Alex, you came across something just the other day that you wanted to sort of share.
Yep. Keeping an eye, as usual, on the Amazon Connect release notes. One in there at the moment for February, which I don't think we mentioned last time, and it is relevant to what we discussed last time on the podcast, though. So we were talking about CRM, profiles, cases, that kind of thing. And the new releases for Amazon Connect cases, and it now provides an audit history on cases that allows you to see which users worked on a case, what changes they made, and the order in which those changes occurred. So yeah, giving you a bit more visibility around the actions taken on your cases, so you're not kind of blind around what's been going on them. So yeah, okay, sounds good. So
that's potentially an unlock for highly compliant, I guess, like government or compliance, where they need that level of like the audit trail. They need to know everything that's happened. Maybe it's an unlock for those people then, I guess, to have that sort of visibility. So that's cool. I mean, it's good for everyone as well, really, just to understand what's been going on. So let's get into this chat widget then. So we've had the chat widget for a while, and I feel like last year sometime we could have multiple chat widgets per Connect instance, right? And that was cool. And yeah, so if you don't know what we're talking about, let's start right at the beginning. So Amazon Connect has a chat widget that you can add to your website or app. It's, Bentley, keep me honest, it's JavaScript?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you can drop it into your website, you can configure it, you can brand it as well. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you're able to, on the out of the box, you can add your logo on there if you want to. And then, of course, you can do your full customization and make that completely personal.
Okay, cool. And you can add it there's some affordances for like building it into a mobile app as well. I think there's like underlying it all, there's like an API you could use, or there's maybe even libraries as well you can use.
Yes, yeah. So you can add it to an app. You can actually add the out of the box to an app if you wanted to. I had some success in doing that.
Okay, cool. So it's pretty easy to get started. And what it gives you is the ability for your customers to just start a chat session. And what happens on the back end then? So is that just like them calling your phone number for Amazon Connect? Does it go into the same queue? Like how does that work?
Yeah, essentially it is. It follows the same sort of journey as a call would, but you can have a separate contact flow for your chat. So, if you wanted to, you can front that with the integration of Amazon Lex. So they can have a chat with a bot, but it's still in your contact center. You're seeing the data. And then you can route it to queues just as you would a phone call, and you can use the same queue as a voice queue if you wanted to, or you can have separate ones.
Oh, nice! So you can even start off with a bot and try and get it answered, and then hand it off to a human, and that just goes into a Connect queue, just like a voice call would. That's cool. And
yeah,
I know you can pass like arguments as well optionally. So like you imagine like a user on a website, you could like start chatting. It's useful to know kind of what page they're on, what's in their basket maybe. But I guess their user identifier as well, you could pass that and somehow look it up, because it's different from voice calling. You can't use the phone number. I guess you don't know anything about this user unless you pass it yourself. There's no identifier there.
Yeah. So you can pass that context with the out of the box widget. It does require a bit more development. You'll have to use the JavaScript web tokens, and obviously have a little bit more freedom if you create the full custom experience yourself. But yeah, absolutely, those sorts of things, what page they're on, what they've done before, you can pass that in and get that information to an advisor.
That's really exciting for me, leading on from what we were discussing last time, Tom. Just being able to have a fully authenticated customer, so you know who it is and seeing what they've been browsing, what products they might be looking at, being able to pass that context to the agent and arming them ready to have that conversation. That sounds really good to me.
Yeah, definitely. So that's all stuff you could do already, which is great. So what's the thing that's new?
So what's new, and I think it was the end of November of last year. So they introduced in-app web and video calling. So they integrated it into the existing chat widget. So it's now been rebranded as the communications widget, and you have the option for web and video calling, so voice and video, in the same widget.
Okay, so same widget, same single widget that I put on the website, but now I can do chat, but I could also talk to my agent. I could do video calling with my agent as well.
Yes, yeah. So of course, your existing chat widget, you would have to enable those features, but it would now be available in that same widget.
Got it. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. Like, if I already have the chat widget and I don't want this, I don't panic. I don't have to worry, right? Nothing's going to happen unless you opt into using this. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, that's kind of incredible. Like, that changes for me some of that customer experience stuff. So the thing I find frustrating is where you've got different flows for customer service, you know, where you've got, I can do web chat or I can pick up the phone. And like, those are two very separate worlds. And it can be kind of hard to start in one and then continue on another. But actually, this is really interesting because you can presumably start on chat and then just kind of upscale to audio or video as part of that same conversation. Is that how it works? You always start off on one, or how does that work?
So it will depend on whether it's the out of the box or custom experience. So with the out of the box, you do have the consideration that when you click the icon to open it up, it will open up the chat session immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't have anything like a Lexbot in front of it and you just route into a queue, that chat session will start and an agent will be needed. If you want to step up to a voice call or a video call, it's classed as a separate contact. So your chat session will end and a voice call will start. So technically it's separate. I think if you were to create it fully custom, then you could maybe create an escalation. But if it's out of the box, then it's going to be a separate contact and you need to do something to handle that.
Got it. That's interesting. Does it then get rerouted? Not rerouted, but you know what I mean? Does it go back into the queue and it could potentially be picked up by someone else? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, technically. So you would technically be going to the back of the queue unless you've done something to handle that.
Got it. And that's where your custom integration comes in. That's where your custom work to be like, actually, when this happens, what I'm trying to do is get back to that same person.
Exactly.
That completely makes sense. That's interesting. So I guess, Alex, do you think this is going to be taken up? Like, how do you see this being embraced by big companies everywhere?
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask you guys, amongst the three of us, do you think it feels like a natural progression? First of all, so we're all pretty used to us in IT anyway. A few enforced years of being on Teams or Zoom calls pretty much all day. That would feel quite natural to me. So rather than picking up my mobile, if I was to go onto a company's website and be able to engage using voice, but on the website using my headset, I would be absolutely fine with that. And I think there are some benefits to be had there. The one obvious one that we mentioned, you can be fully authenticated and you can pass all your contacts to the agent potentially and have that nice sort of seamless customer experience. Will companies embrace it? I think there are a few considerations. Probably, cost is always up there in terms of consideration. So we should look at that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also around the benefit to the customer and to the company. So there's quite a lot to unpick there potentially. What about you guys? Do you think you would embrace this, the voice calling part specifically?
Yeah, I think so. I think the world is ready. I really do. Like, everyone has a headset now. It's incredible how that's changed so much. Like, I live 4 hours away from my parents and I could never get them to do like Skype calls or like anything like that. They just didn't do it. And then we had lockdown, and it turns out like when FaceTime's the only way to see your grandkids, you pick that stuff up real fast. So like, actually, I think a lot of us have been through that. And as you say, like everyone has a headset now, everyone has a camera. Yeah, I think we are ready for it. Yeah, to your point, like, I think the users are ready. I think customers are ready. Our company's ready. Not sure, and there are some considerations we should go through. But I think there's also loads of use cases that will be different and unique to particularly video. I think being able to show somebody something, thinking around, like support calls, troubleshooting, after product care, all stuff like that. Just like a classic. I can't work out how to use my washing machine. Oh, you need to press the spin button. Which one's the spin button? Just being able to like get on a video call, spin the phone around and be like, this is what I see. And like, oh, okay, like that's not right. Instantly, like that can be 10 minutes of a really frustrating audio call. So I think that's really interesting. And we've done some kind of proof of concept work in this area, haven't we, as well?
Yeah, I was going to mention a couple. We have a healthcare customer. There's some great use cases for video there potentially. I have to administer an injection, or I have to perform this certain medical procedure, rather than having to visit your GP to do that. Potentially, if it's something relatively minor, you could be talked through it over a video call, and we have looked at that. And then there was another one that Bentley, you can keep me honest here. You put together a little proof of concept around sort of proactive push for mortgage renewals, and I think that sort of checking in the bank or mortgage provider's records. Are there any customers where their mortgage is coming up for renewal? Let's send them a proactive push notification to the banking app, and align that with the agent capacity. So there might be a quiet period during the day where we can see we've got spare capacity, and we could line up that the mortgage appointment over video with an available advisor.
I love that. Like, so now you're using your How Bentley talks through that. How did you do that?
Yeah, so at the moment, exactly as Alex said, we're checking the agent's availability. At the moment, we're doing that based on their availability in Connect. So you can set a threshold, say 60 seconds and 3 agents. We've had 3 agents available for over a minute, and then at the moment they're not doing anything. So we'll look into our records, see whose mortgage is ending in, let's say, within 6 months, and then we'll send a push notification to a set number of people, let's say 50 people. We send a push notification saying that we have advisors available. You can get through to them right at this moment. And we send that push notification to their app. They can open that up and start a video conversation with their advisor straight away. We are looking at integrating things like the Outlook calendar and Teams presence to see whether they are available in other areas. Because I guess, for something like a mortgage advisor, they wouldn't necessarily be on the phone all day. So we need to check other avenues. And that's something that we're working on at the moment.
Yeah, that's cool. Sorry, go on, Alex.
Going back to your previous question, Tom, around will companies adopt this? I can see the drivers for adoption being things like that, where there's potential value add in a sales process. I think if they can see that the ability to generate business more easily comes from using the technology, then definitely I think people are going to adopt it.
Yeah, 100%. And this always used to be reserved for very specialist use cases, like real high-end net worth private banking, stuff like that, where you had like a dedicated account manager you could call any time of day or night. And yeah, I've worked on stuff in the past using that where you could video call, but it was literally one-to-one. There's no routing there. So yeah, this is really cool. It's bringing it to everyone. This is exciting. So what do you have to do to get this? Like, can everybody get it today? And where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah, so I think in the sort of the major regions, at least the ones that we've worked in, US regions and London, UK, it's available. You don't have to do anything to enroll. You can just find the communication widgets section in the Amazon Connect dashboard. To set it up, I think it's 3 pages of, you choose which channels you want to enable. Then you can choose your contact flow that you want to use, do some customization if you want to, and then you are presented with a JavaScript snippet that you can then embed into your web page or app. It's really that simple.
Nice. And you can choose to do just voice, can't you? Or voice and video.
Yes. So you can enable chat, enable voice, and then voice or video if you want to.
Nice. And we've already spoken about like don't have to worry too much if I've already got the chat widget, apart from deciding if I want to add to it. That's cool. Can you route things differently? So when you're doing that kind of routing, can you segment out people who want to do video from want to do voice? Do you know, and kind of do the routing differently? I'm just kind of thinking like there's so much for companies to think about, you know, when you bring in both audio but also video as well. Like there's the presentation layer of an agent, you know, like agents are very used to like not ever being seen, so it's kind of totally fine to wear jeans and a hoodie. Actually, is there a bunch of video enabled agents that dress a little bit nicer, have a nice corporate background, all that kind of stuff? So can you route to those folks separately from like the chat and the audio people?
So it's a great question, and I suppose that would be something you'd have to work on the back end in terms of you'd have to maybe send that context through and do the routing by your flows, because if you just use, you know, one single flow for it's one flow for your voice and video interactions, and then you are routed to an agent that either has the ability to turn video on or doesn't.
So that's interesting. So can agents opt in to, like, how does that work? Or do agents get opted in? Or like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's part of your security profile. So I suppose, you know, a supervisor or manager would be making that decision whether to enable it or disable it. And then obviously have the granularity of having video enabled agents and non enabled. But you'll have to do some routing and send some context through if you want to route specific things to specific video call agents. It's not a separate flow.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, cool. All right, we've skirted around it. Let's talk about cost. What does this cost? Like, how is it charged? And are you better off getting rid of all your phone lines and just going with this as your voice solution, for instance?
Yeah, so this is something that Alex mentioned yesterday. So in some cases, well, let's talk about it overall first. It is a low-cost solution. You know, you still pay your Amazon Connect service charge per minute, which is, I think, 0.0018 of a cent a minute. And then for voice calling over the web, it's 1 cent per minute.
Okay.
So I think
that makes it cheaper than calling a phone number.
So I think this is, and we were discussing it yesterday. I think, as is sometimes the case with the AWS pricing, and a good reason to have a good look at the pricing calculators and figure out exactly your own use case and how it's going to be billed. I do think it's quite nuanced. So as Bentley mentioned, you've got your Connect service usage charge, which is your 1.8 cents per minute. You've then got your in-app audio calling, which is the 1 cent per minute. That is going to, depending on your phone number location. So if I have a phone number in the UK, it's going to cost a certain amount for calls to be delivered on that. The UK cost is relatively low, whereas if you look at some other countries, it's quite a bit higher. So it might be that for certain use cases, maybe you're servicing a lot of customers over in, I pick a country as an example, but Estonia is one of those much higher priced ones. It looks more of a sort of complete no-brainer to say if we moved the Estonia traffic onto the web calling, yes, we could save quite a bit more money. Whereas UK, it doesn't look quite so sort of cut and dry to me.
Okay, it's relatively expensive then, I guess. Like a cent a minute. I mean, it doesn't sound like very much when you say a cent a minute, but comparing it against, like, certainly some. You always imagine telephone usage to be more expensive than it is, I think, but it's the economies of scale. And maybe we'll see the price change as well as this stuff rolls out and gets more take up. Like, the economies of scale will bring it down a little bit.
Yeah,
but that's such a good idea. Yeah, I was going to say that's a really interesting solution that you've sort of posited there around, you know, we'll have a couple of phone numbers, but actually sometimes we might just push people to the web to make a call that way.
Yeah, agreed. And one other thing just to mention quickly, so you also have the distinction between DID numbers, so direct dial, kind of like your local phone number, compared to TFNs, toll-free numbers. And the toll-free numbers are generally, for the same region, quite a bit more expensive, so that might tip the balance as well in favour of the web calling.
That's interesting. I don't know, what do you guys think? I feel like toll-free numbers have a limited lifespan with this kind of tech coming along. Like, this is the ultimate toll-free experience for customers, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess for me anyway, toll-free numbers, they're less of a consideration these days, because I don't think that many people sort of look that closely at their phone bill in terms of what am I calling
Everything's like included, isn't
bundle,
it? Like,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. It's such an old. It feels like quite an old school like feel good factor. 0800. Like it feels like important in some way.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think the other thing as well, just like for companies planning this stuff out, cost is a really big one. But I think thinking about agent utilization is important as well, because one of the things with chats is that agents can quite often have 2, 3, 4 chats on the go. But obviously you'd really struggle to do that with video or audio. You're going to be using 100% of an agent. So you might need more agents if you do that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Worth pointing out as well, I think I butchered it before, Alex was correct, it's 1.8 cent for the usage charge, 1 cent for the audio usage, and then if you want to escalate to video, it's 1.5 cent per minute, but you will be charged for both streams. So if the agent and the customer are using video, it's 3 cent per minute.
Charge for both legs. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And that's on top of your audio usage and your usage charge.
Yeah. And I guess there's plenty of innovation still to happen in this area. Like, I mean, I'm thinking things like the recording. Like I don't think that's a thing you can do today, right? But feels like is there a good way of doing that today? If you're like, right, we want to do video, but we want it recorded. I don't even know where to go with that. Like there must be third-party solutions as well, I imagine. But that feels like something that, Connect might add later as an additional charge.
You'd have thought so. Yeah, at the moment, there's no video recording, just the audio. I'm not aware of any third parties enabling that. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what comes with that one.
Yeah, definitely. All right, excellent. There's lots for companies to think about, I think. Any final thoughts on this as a feature and how you think it's going to land?
I guess to counter the cost discussion, we've dug into it a bit deeper and figured out actually it could get quite expensive. But then what would the motivators be for taking this up? What are the benefits to the customer and the companies? I mean, I mentioned earlier, I would definitely be engaging as a customer via the web channel. I just think it makes total sense given the way that I engage in conversation for the rest of my time. And I like the fact that we can really empower that improved customer experience. So the agent knows what I've been looking at, they know who I am, and they can jump straight into that conversation and help serve my inquiry. I think in terms of some of the benefits to companies, we mentioned ones around it, maybe companies that serve many different countries or perhaps expat communities, or I mentioned other locations like Estonia, so perhaps it's quite a bit more expensive to get local phone lines into Connect. It does seem like that the numbers make it more of a no-brainer to apply it in those situations. Or also we mentioned that where you have the value add, right? So the proactive mortgage push was the example we gave, where there's the potential for maximizing those sales processes, you're going to want to perhaps invest a bit more.
It's a real feel-good factor as well, like for companies looking to have something a bit different as well. Being able to kind of talk to somebody and see them, like it's a very human connection thing as well, isn't it? To kind of see the person you're talking to. So I wonder if we'll see companies do that as well, like sort of wrap it into their marketing a little bit as well. With a human face company, you can talk to us, like you can talk to a real advisor and see them and do all that sort of stuff and really market it as a bit of a USP.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. Well, if you've got questions about any of this stuff, just a reminder that we would love to get your questions and we'll try and answer on future shows. You can always email us at podcast@cloudinteract.io. Gentlemen, we could talk all day, but it is time to bring this episode to an end. Bentley, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
That's all. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Bentley.
That's all. Cool. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Today, we discussed the new capabilities for audio and video in the Amazon, what's it called? The communication widget. Have I got that right?
Yeah.
Excellent. The communication widget. Next week on ACP, we're going to be looking back to the very first days of Amazon Connect and its rise to prominence, particularly in the banking sector, with John Ing, an independent cloud contact center consultant. He was there. He saw it all. He's got the stories. So be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast player. That way you won't miss it. Whilst you're there, We'd love it as well if you would rate and review us, because as a new podcast, if you have colleagues that you think would benefit from this content, please let them know. To find out more about how Cloud Interact can help you on your contact center journey, visit cloudinteract.io. We're wrapping this call up now, and we'll connect with you next time.